The Battle of Waterloo, fought on June 18, 1815, was one of the most consequential battles in European history. It marked the final defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of history's greatest military commanders, and brought an end to more than 2 decades of war in Europe. The result of the battle not only ended Napoleon's reign as Emperor of France but also permanently altered the political landscape of Europe, solidifying the dominance of the great powers that opposed him and establishing a period of relative peace known as the Concert of Europe. The events leading to the battle itself, and its aftermath provide a gripping story of strategy, ambition, and the rise and fall of an empire. The background: the return of Napoleon and the Seventh Coalition. The road to Waterloo began with Napoleon's unexpected return to power in March 1815. Following his exile on the island of Elba. After his defeat in 1814, Napoleon had been forced to abdicate and was sent to Elba, a small island in the Mediterranean, where he was allowed to rule as a sovereign with a small retinue. However, Napoleon never accepted his diminished status. Watching the political instability in France under King Louis XVIII, and sensing an opportunity, he escaped from Elba in February 1815 and landed on the French coast near Cannes. Napoleon's return, known as the 100 Days, was nothing short of spectacular. As he marched north toward Paris, troops sent to arrest him instead joined his cause, and his popularity among soldiers and citizens grew. By the time he reached Paris on March 20, King Louis XVIII had fled, and Napoleon was reinstated as Emperor of France. However, his return to power was met with immediate opposition from the European powers that had defeated him the previous year. The Seventh Coalition was formed to stop Napoleon's resurgence. This alliance included Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia, all determined to crush Napoleon once and for all. These powers pledged to mobilize their armies and converge on France, planning a coordinated invasion. Napoleon, aware of the coalition's intentions, moved quickly to strike before their forces could unite. His plan was to defeat the British and Prussian armies stationed in Belgium separately, thereby disrupting the coalition's plans and forcing a favorable peace settlement. The prelude to Waterloo, the campaign in Belgium. Napoleon's army of approximately 130,000 men crossed the French border into Belgium in mid-June 1815. His strategy was to drive a wedge between the British forces, commanded by the Duke of Wellington, and the Prussian forces, led by Field Marshal Gebhard Lebrecht von Blücher. By defeating each army in detail, he hoped to prevent them from joining forces and gaining numerical superiority. On June 16, Napoleon achieved a partial victory against the Prussians at the Battle of Waterloo. Although his forces managed to push the Prussians back, they were not completely defeated. At the same time, Marshal Ney, one of Napoleon's most trusted generals, engaged Wellington's forces at the Battle of Waterloo. While Ney managed to delay the British, he failed to prevent them from retreating to a strong defensive position near the village of Waterloo, about 10 miles south of Brussels. Despite his successes at Waterloo and Waterloo, Napoleon faced a critical challenge. The Prussian army was still intact and capable of rejoining Wellington. The Prussians had retreated but remained close enough to support the British. Napoleon decided to press on and confront Wellington before the Prussians could arrive. The battlefield at Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo was fought in a relatively small area near the village of Waterloo in modern-day Belgium. The terrain played a significant role in the battle's outcome. Wellington had chosen a strong defensive position on a ridge that provided natural protection for his troops. His forces were deployed in a line that stretched approximately 2.5 miles, anchored by key defensive positions: the walled farm of Hougoumont on the right, the fortified farmhouse of La Haye Sainte in the center, and the hamlet of Papelotte on the left. Napoleon's forces were positioned opposite Wellington's army, separated by a shallow valley. Heavy rain the night before the battle had turned the ground into mud, delaying Napoleon's attack until late morning. He hoped the ground would dry enough to allow his artillery to operate effectively, as muddy terrain reduced the mobility of his cannons and the effectiveness of their firepower. The battle, morning to early afternoon. The battle began around 11:30 a.m. with a French diversionary attack on Hougoumont. Napoleon intended to draw Wellington's attention to this position while preparing his main assault on the Allied center. However, The fighting at Hougoumont escalated into an intense and prolonged struggle. British and Allied troops fiercely defended the walled farm, repelling wave after wave of French assaults. Hougoumont became a battle within a battle, absorbing significant French resources but failing to achieve its intended purpose. Meanwhile, Napoleon launched a major attack on Wellington's center, focusing on La Haye Sainte. French infantry advanced in dense columns, supported by a massive artillery barrage, but were met with stiff resistance from the Allied troops. The British and their allies, including Dutch, Belgian, and German contingents, held their ground on the ridge, inflicting heavy casualties on the French. The arrival of the Prussians by mid-afternoon, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Prussian army, under Blücher 1/4 share, arrived on the battlefield, attacking Napoleon's right flank near the village of Plancenoit. The Prussians' arrival was a decisive moment, as it forced Napoleon to divert troops to counter this new threat. The French were now fighting on two fronts, facing both Wellington's well-entrenched forces and the advancing Prussians. Blücher 1/4 share's determination to support Wellington was critical. Despite being battered at Ligny 2 days earlier, the Prussians marched tirelessly to reach the battlefield, fulfilling their promise to aid the British. Their attack on Plancenoit disrupted Napoleon's plans and weakened his ability to launch a coordinated assault on Wellington's positions. The final assault, Napoleon's last gamble as the battle wore on into the early evening, Napoleon made one final, desperate attempt to break Wellington's lines. He ordered his Imperial Guard, the elite veterans of his army and a symbol of his military might, to attack the Allied center. The Guard advanced with confidence, expecting to overwhelm the exhausted British troops. However, Wellington's forces, supported by artillery and reinforcements, held firm. In a dramatic and historic moment, the Imperial Guard was repelled. This marked the first time in Napoleon's career that the Guard had been decisively defeated in battle. Their retreat shattered the morale of the French army, and cries of "La Garde recule, the Guard is retreating," spread panic among Napoleon's troops. The French army disintegrated into chaos, and Wellington ordered a counteroffensive, driving the remnants of Napoleon's forces from the field. The aftermath of Waterloo. By nightfall, the Battle of Waterloo was over. Napoleon fled the battlefield, his hopes of reclaiming his empire shattered. Within days, he abdicated for the second time and was captured by coalition forces. This time, there would be no return. Napoleon was exiled to the remote island of Saint Helena in the South Atlantic, where he lived out the rest of his life in isolation until his death in 1821. For the coalition powers, the victory at Waterloo marked the end of the Napoleonic era. The Duke of Wellington emerged as a hero, celebrated for his leadership and strategic brilliance. The Prussians, too, played a crucial role, with Blücher 1/4 share's timely intervention securing the coalition's victory. The political consequences of Waterloo were profound. The Congress of Vienna, which had been convening since 1814, was able to finalize its plans for a post-Napoleonic Europe. Monarchies overthrown during the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars were restored, and a balance of power was established to prevent any single nation from dominating the continent. This period of relative peace, known as the Concert of Europe, lasted for much of the 19th century. Legacy of the Battle of Waterloo became a defining moment in European history, symbolizing the end of an era of revolutionary ambition and military conquest. It was immortalized in literature, art, and popular memory, serving as a cautionary tale about the perils of unchecked ambition. For France, it marked the end of Napoleon's empire and the beginning of a long period of political instability. For Europe, it signified a return to traditional monarchies and the consolidation of a new political order. Waterloo remains a testament to the complexities of war, leadership, and the shifting tides of history. It was not just the end of Napoleon's reign but the dawn of a new chapter in Europe's story, one shaped by diplomacy, balance, and the hard-earned peace.